Okay, so welcome to Genius Dreams Education channel. Today we are going to continue our lesson on Photoshop designing, and we are going to look at how we can design a simple church flyer. So just follow me to the end of this video and you see how the flyer will look like. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel to get weekly videos on Photoshop and website development. So the first thing we are going to do is to create our new working space by using Ctrl N, and I'm going to use the size 3 by 3 with a resolution of 300. Then I'll click on create. So this is the working space we are going to do the design. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a gradient. So I'll come here and then click on the gradient, and I'll click here to select my gradient. I'm going to use this type of gradient. So I'll then click on OK. So after this one, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import an image and blend it with this gradient. So I'll go to my folder or file. I'll go to my folder and select or drag and drop the image I want to use to the working space. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this image with the gradient, and the blending option I'm going to use is linear blend. Let me check the linear blend blending mode. So the next thing I'll do is to import my image. So the original image, an image of a pastor, to the working space. So this is the pastor's image. So I'm going to right click on that layer and then I'll rasterize it. So after rasterizing it, I'm going to remove the background of this image. Go to Window, Properties. Then I'll come here, click on Remove Background. If not subscribed to the channel, please do well to subscribe it to get weekly videos on Photoshop and website development. So now we are waiting for the background to be removed. So after removing the background, this is how the image is going to look like. And I'm going to drag it down small like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll go in for the rectangular tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle to cover this place. Rectangle like this. And I'll maintain the filling color to be white. Press enter to get it like this. So the next thing I'll do is to give out the text part of this flyer. So for the text part, I'm going to write all the text and then you continue. So you just go in for the text tool here, then you click on any part and give out your text. So actually, these are the text I'm going to use for this flyer. So the next thing we are going to do is to continue with the editing or the designing nice aspects. So I'm going for the rectangular tool here and I'm going to draw a small rectangle here. So I think this is okay. Let me choose the filling color of black to make it visible. So the next thing is I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag it to make a copy, and you can use Ctrl J to also make the copy. So actually I'm done with this part. So the next thing is I'll go in for my last image, which is the Bible image. So let me transform it in, and I'm going to position it here. So let me right click on that layer and rasterize it, then remove the background. Come here to remove the background. So still, if not subscribed to the channel, please do well to subscribe to the channel to get weekly videos on Photoshop and website development. So now the background has been removed. So let me adjust it like here. Press on Ctrl T, transform it out to more. So when we start with the text editing, you see how this part will look like. So now, actually, I'm done. I'm almost done with the flyer. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to group all the text within this rectangle here. And I'll also group this rectangle as well. So let me select from Church of Christ, Flier. So I'm going to select all the contents of this rectangle and group it. So then you hold Control, then you select all, press on G to group them. So I'm going to name it as rect content and then save it. So the next thing is I'm going to provide the styling part or choose font family, font size, and the rest for the text. So I'll select the Church of Christ, then come here, select the text, and I'm going to choose a font family for it. And let me use the Rockwell. So I'm going to use, let me check this font family too. So I'm going to use the Acme variable concept font family, and let me increase my font size to somewhere about 16. So I'm then going to increase the space in between the text. Let me set that space to somewhere like this. So I'm then going to drag it. So the next thing is I'm going to work on the present too. So I'll select the present layer. First of all, let me position it at somewhere here and choose a font family for it. So this is the font family I'm going to use, and I'm going to increase the distance in between it as well. So let me set this one to somewhere about 400%. 400 is too much. Let me make it 300. So let me position it well and then decrease the font size to somewhere about 10. So now I think this one is okay. So the next thing is I'll come to the text for this one too and do same. So I'm going to maintain the second coming. I'm going to maintain the font family and the text, the font size too. So for the font size, let me make it somewhere about 14, or 14 is small. Let me make it, set it to 16, then drag it to somewhere like here. The next thing is I'm going to select this layer, that's the Jesus Christ tool. Let me drag it down small and choose a font family. the font family, I'm going to maintain it as the first one. Set the font size to 16, same as the first one. Then the next one is I'm going to choose the coming of. I'll maintain the font family, but I'm going to change the font size to somewhere about 18, and I'm going to increase the height of the text to somewhere about 20%. So after increasing the height, I'm going to reduce the space in between it to somewhere about -100. Then let me position it here. So I'm done with this one. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select those layers and group them as one. So you hold Control, then you select them, you click on G to group them. So I'm going to use the first word, which is the second, to name it. So for this one, I will maintain the font family and the font size. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to increase the space. Let me check the font size. The font size is 12. Let me make it 16. Then the name of the pastor too, I'm going to increase the font size to 18, and then increase the space in between the text to 200. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to position it somewhere here, and then position the by to. So now I think this one is okay now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the text inside this rectangle. So I'm going to select them. Let me go to the rectangle group. So let me drag or position this text here. I'm going to maintain the font size and the font family for this one. So the next thing is I'll select this one too. First of all, let me position the AM and then work on the 9. So my AM, I'm going to leave it somewhere like here. Then let me select the 9, and I'm going to increase the size to somewhere about 8, 16. So 16, then let me position it well. So I think this one is okay now. So the next thing is I'll select the Jesus is coming, and I'm going to choose a font family for it. So I'm going to use this font family. So that's the font family I'm going to use. Let me try another font family to see. Let me try another one. So then let me decrease the font size to somewhere about 10. So I'm going to decrease the font size to somewhere about 10, and then position it here. So now I think this one is okay. So actually I'm done with the flyer. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add some color and other effects to it. So I'm going to select this layer. So I'm going to select the whole this rectangle layer, and I'm going to add a color effect to it. So I'll go into my folder, and I'm going to use this image to create a clipping marks effect on those tests. So I then come and right click on the layer and then click on create clipping marks. So now you see the text color and the color of those rectangles here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to provide the same color effect for this text. So I'm going to select that layer, then go to my folder, click and drag the image to cover the text there, and then click on create clipping marks. So right click on the layer, click on create clipping marks. So now you see the effect on this text too. Okay, so I'm done with the color aspect or the color effect and everything for now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all and then add some hue and saturation to it. So I'm going to select all the layers, so after selecting them, I'll click on G to group them. Then I'm going to name it as all. So after naming it, let me then leave it. I'm going to add one last image. So I'm going to add one last image, an image of a horn to this place. So for this image, I'm going to right click, rasterize, and then remove the background. So go to Windows Properties and then click on remove background. So as usual, if you've not subscribed to the channel, do so to get weekly videos on Photoshop and website development. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this image with our background. I'm going to choose the light color blending mode, and I'm going to reduce the opacity to somewhere about 40%. So now let me position this image here. So I'm going to leave it to somewhere like this place. So then the next thing is I'll select all the layers and then click here. I'm going to add some curves, small curves to it to see the effect. So I think this one is cool as compared to the first one. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add hue and saturation to it. Let me add some small hue and saturation to it. Then let me adjust this one to small. So the next thing I'm going to do is let me check on the lightness. And then I'm going to add brightness and contrast to it. So I'm going to leave it as this. For now, this is the final lookout of our church flyer. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel to get more videos on Photoshop and website development. Goodbye.